Hello class, in this video I'm going to walk through chapter 1 of our textbook and help you get your Mookie the Beagle Concierge Company set up in QuickBooks Online. And then I'm also going to help you set up the Hafra Cyber Company that is at the end of chapter 1 in project 1. And before I do that though, I want to just take a quick look at our Canvas course here, and I'm on the home page. I'm going to go in the assignments area. And then I'm going to open up the week 1 accordion. So I'm going to pull up that chapter 1 SmartBook really quick. So I'm on the landing page for the Chapter 1 SmartBook assignment. Now, if that was the first time you were setting up McGraw-Hill for this class, you would have come to a screen where you would have had to set up your McGraw-Hill account or log into an existing one and get it set up with our course. Now, if you haven't purchased the access code for the class, it's fine. You can do a free 2-week trial through McGraw-Hill when you go through that process. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to have access to the text right away if you've got assignments in McGraw-Hill in week 1. All right, so when you get to a SmartBook assignment, you have two choices. Either you can start the reading or start questions. You are going to have to respond to questions from the book and from what we do in this video later, but I would suggest that you respond to the SmartBook assignment after you go through this video and do all the things that we do when we tour QuickBooks and make a couple of settings changes and so on. So I'm going to click on Start Reading. So really quickly, you can navigate the textbook here by clicking on this table of contents button. You can see the different chapters and you can expand them out by clicking on these arrows, and then you can click on whatever section you want to go to. Another way to navigate the book is just using these left and right arrows to move back and forward through pages. You can also keyword search the book this way. And just a couple things I want to point out real quick here. So the first thing we want to talk about is this company that we're setting up. It's Mookie the Beagle Concierge Company. It's created by a person named Cy Walker. And right now the business is going to just be a service-based business. They're going to do pet care services. Down the road in the class, the business is going to realize that, hey, we could also make money by selling products. So we'll start carrying inventory and show the accounting for that inside of QuickBooks Online later on in the course. But right now, that's what we need to know. It's Mookie the Beagle Concierge, a service business. And the business is going to be set up as a sole proprietorship. The textbook does in this chapter talk about different legal forms of organization when you're setting up a business. You might have a C corporation, you might have a sole proprietorship, you might have an LLC, and so on. Make sure you read through that page or two that talks about that. There will be some questions in the Chapter 1 Connect assignment that quizzes you on that. It also asks you a little bit about the tax forms that those different forms of organizations would file to pay their federal taxes. You aren't going to be filing any tax forms for this class, but you should be aware of which tax forms are filed by these different types of business organizations. So the body of each chapter is going to be organized around Mookie the Beagle Concierge Company. And if you expand out the table of contents from chapter 1, at the end of each chapter, you're going to see there's a project. So there's going to be a different business that we set up inside of QuickBooks Online called Hafra Cyber, and we'll have another backstory on that one as well. In this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up Mookie the Beagle Concierge with you, and then I'm also going to help you set up Hafra Cyber as well. And then in future chapters, you guys are going to do the activities for Hafra Cyber, where each chapter I will walk through the Mookie the Beagle Concierge Company activities. I still want you to do the accounting inside of QuickBooks Online for both companies. You'll earn points by doing so. I have access to all of your company files, so I'll be going in there and manually looking at your Mookie the Beagle company. The way that you'll be assessed on Hafra Cyber is you will respond to questions in McGraw-Hill Connect on that one. We'll be asking about check figures, you'll upload reports and so on. And that will mostly be auto-graded except for the manual reports. I'll have to go and look at those and give you feedback on those. But the Mookie the Beagle, you won't be doing any submission on that inside of Connect, but I will be auditing your files, and it'll basically be evaluated on like a pass-fail basis. If I can see that you're making a good college attempt and you're going through all the activities and you at least attempted what I did in the video inside of your Mookie the Beagle, you'll earn the points. But the Hafra Cyber is worth a lot more points, and you'll be submitting your work for that inside of McGraw-Hill Connect. And I'll show you how to do that submission later on in this video for the Hafra Cyber Company, but right now I'm just going to walk through the steps of Mookie the Beagle. So I'm going to be sort of walking through this text as I'm going through this video. I'm not always going to pull it up on screen, but I am going to call out something here that's important. So the author of the book also maintains a website. You can see the link here. I'll put it in the course resources area of our Canvas course. And if you go there, you can find updates for the textbook. And what she's trying to do there is give you screenshots that reflect the updated screens that are in the software. The problem is that these screenshots aren't always kept up to date, and hopefully these videos will be. I'm doing them in August 2025. But if you see something as you work through the concepts in the class that doesn't match up with my videos or this website, please reach out and let me know that right away. All right, so to get started, you're going to want to log into your GRCC student email account, and you're going to look for 2 emails from me that are actually from Intuit Education, but I've initiated them to be sent to you. And they're going to have a subject line that says something like this: action required. Brian Daly has invited you to create a QuickBooks company. And if you click on that, and actually you can see here that the 2 emails are stacked on top of each other. That's just how Gmail handles that. So I've got 2 emails here, and I'm going to read this one that I can see. Okay, I can see that this one's for Hafra Cyber, and then if I click on the other email, I can see that this one is for Mookie the Beagle. So I am going to accept the invitation for the Mookie the Beagle company now. So when you click on accept that invitation, you're going to come to a screen where you're going to create an Intuit account. You're going to see your GRCC student email address listed here. Do not change that. Make sure you're using your GRCC email. You're going to confirm it. I had to put a generic Gmail account here because I don't have a student email account. But basically walk through these steps. Make sure you jot down your password because you're going to be using it a bunch as you log into QuickBooks Online regularly throughout this semester. After you've created your account, you'll come to this screen where you can click on Let's Get Started. All right, so if you've accepted the Mookie the Beagle Concierge Company invitation, you should see that name already appear here. I want you to come here and click before this name and modify the name of the company. So I want you to enter your last name followed by your first initial and then a space and then the name of the company as it is, Mookie the Beagle Concierge, and then we'll hit next. So on this screen, we're being asked if we were potentially keeping track of our business's books using a different accounting software prior to using QuickBooks Online. And if so, they would provide us with some tools to maybe migrate our information inside of QuickBooks Online. However, for our purposes, we're going to select nothing. I'm new to this, and then next. All right, so this next screen is asking us for the industry, and this is important to the software in that it would try to populate the chart of accounts based on the industry we selected. It would select accounts that are common for that industry. It might save us some time when creating our chart of accounts, but for our purposes, we are just going to leave that blank because we're going to get some practice at setting up the chart of accounts in chapter 2 of our textbook. Here's an important one. We have to select the business type, and our business, Mookie the Beagle Concierge, is going to be set up as a sole proprietorship. And lastly, they ask us, what was your company's annual revenue last year? And this question isn't really appropriate for a brand new business, and that's what Mookie the Beagle Concierge is. We don't have a choice for, hey, we're a brand new company. We're just going to select less than $1 million US. Okay, on this screen we're being asked what our role is. We are going to be the bookkeeper or accountant for the company, and we're going to say that there's just 1 employee currently at the company. On this You Nailed the Basics screen, we are going to click on the Do It First next to Learn How to Start Paying Yourself and Your Team. And this is an important one here. So what they're asking us to do is sign up for a free trial for the QuickBooks Online payroll service. So payroll is not a part of the QuickBooks Online Plus subscription that you automatically get when you get the invitation from your instructor for this class. The payroll is a paid service and it's extra, so it's not included in that. You can get into a free 30-day trial, but actually that will mess up something that we do later in the class. So for right now, it's really important we say not right now on this one and then hit next. So on this screen, we're being asked if we can set up some custom invoices, maybe with our own logos and things like that. We're not going to be doing that right now though, so we're going to click skip for now. On this screen where we're being asked if we're going to accept in-person payments, we are not going to do that right now. We'll skip it. And also, we're not going to be connecting your actual bank accounts inside of QuickBooks Online, so we're going to skip that as well. On this screen, where we're being asked what we're going to want to do in QuickBooks, we're going to make several selections. We're going to send and track invoices. We're going to manage and pay bills. We're going to track our team's time. We're going to track sales, and we're going to manage sales tax. Later on in the course, we'll also be changing the business a little bit and selling products, so we'll manage inventory, but for right now, we'll just select those items and then hit next. So when we launch into QuickBooks Online for the first time, we have this task pane on the right, which is actually a pretty helpful little pane. It keeps track of things that we need to do. And if we had something that was coming up due soon, we'd have it showing up in ongoing tasks. And then since we're setting up a new company, we're seeing some setup tasks here. But for right now, just to clear up the real estate on this page, I'm going to close out of this pane. So here we are looking at the QuickBooks Online interface, and if you look at the instructions in our textbook, which I'll pull up here in just a second, they are very different. And I pulled up a screenshot from the textbook here, and you can see that the interface, especially when we look at the left-hand side of the current navigation, the current interface against the old interface here, we see different color scheme, but we also see different button choices here, so it's quite a bit different. Fortunately, the author of the textbook does maintain that QuickBooks Online updates page here, so I'm used that link, which is in the course resources area on Canvas. And if I scroll down the page a little bit here, they're talking about the interface here, and then it looks like the new chapter 1 navigation page that corresponds to where we're at right now is right here. So yeah, they do have an updated portion of the textbook. It's in a PDF. My video should help us bridge the gap, but you also have this written resource here as well. So a lot of chapter 1 is just sort of clicking around inside of the interface here and just taking a look at what's out there. There isn't a whole lot of activity that actually causes a change to the company file that we do in chapter 1. So I will call out those pieces that do cause a change to the company file in just a minute, but for right now I'm just going to sort of talk about this interface. So on the left hand side of the screen we've got our navigational menu here, and I'm going to talk about each of these, and then I'm going to call out the ones that I'm in the most. So the create button here, this plus button, that's probably the area of QuickBooks Online that I use the most. So what we have here are different columns. You can see customers, vendors, team, and other. So you can see, okay, these are activities inside of QuickBooks that relate to a customer. And a lot of these are different transactions that we would enter for a customer. So maybe if we sell to a customer on credit, we're going to send them an invoice, we're going to send them a bill, and then hopefully down the road they pay us, so we receive their payment. If we need to add a new customer and put their contact information and their address in there, we could do that there, and so on. There's a bunch of transactions and activities that relate to customers. Similarly, we have a column for vendors. Maybe we receive a bill from a vendor and then we pay it off later on. We see those there. And then if we're talking about our employees, we've got a section for employees here. Now this is limited because we don't have the QuickBooks Online payroll subscription. And then finally we have this other category, so these are transactions as well. Maybe we have to do our adjusting journal entries at the end of the year, or a correcting journal entry because of a mistake that was made, or maybe we need to record a transfer from one bank account to another. Maybe we need to show that a deposit has been made to the bank from receipts of payment that were in the form of cash or maybe a check. So I'm inside of this create button often in QuickBooks Online, and we won't actually enter transactions until chapter 3. Chapter 1 is mostly a tour of QuickBooks. Chapter 2 is getting the chart of accounts set up, and then chapter 3 and on is where we start to really get into it and start entering transactions and running more and more reports. All right, so then the bookmarks area is pretty handy. This is an area where you can specify, oh, I'm often coming to this page on QuickBooks and I don't want to have to go and try to find that page every time. You can just bookmark that page and then it will appear in this list. So it's user specific, pretty handy. The dashboard, if I click on that, is actually what we're seeing right now on screen. So it's going to give us a snapshot of the business, including money in and money out. It doesn't really have much information on it right now because it's a brand new company. So there's no money in and no money out, no income nor expenses, and so on. The feed is a news feed with reminders and helpful tips like connecting your bank account or sending your invoices and so on. If I mouse over reports, I can see there's different categories of reports. I'm going to select standard reports for right now. And all of our reports that are available inside of QuickBooks Online are going to be listed out here. You can see you can favorite some of them by hitting the star next to them. They'll show up in your favorites list. So you can see the balance sheet and the profit and loss are automatically starred, and you can see them showing up there, as was the account receivable aging summary. So you can add favorites, make them a little quicker to find. You can also keyword search the names of reports, and actually I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to type in the word ledger, and I'm going to pull up the general ledger report. And the dates that we enter transactions in this textbook are all going to be dates in 2024. Now, QuickBooks Online is set up to automatically look at the current date. So August 16, when I'm making this video, is the current date. And if I entered a new transaction, it would automatically put the date as August 16. And because of that, that can sometimes cause mistakes with students' reports because maybe they pull an income statement for 2024, but they accidentally entered a transaction using the current date. So what I suggest to do on this general ledger report, which we're going to end up using a ton in this class, this is a report that we're commonly uploading into Connect, but also helping us find mistakes, is I'm going to change this drop down menu where it says this month to date. I'm going to select all dates here and I'm going to run report. Now, there's nothing in here right now because it's a brand new company, but as we go through the class and start entering transactions, if I select all dates, what I can quickly do is scan this report and look for any dates that aren't in 2024 and probably are going to be in 2025 or 2026, depending on when you're looking at this video. And yeah, so by changing this to all dates, it will help us correct date errors. We want to make sure that we're entering the dates of the transactions according to the dates listed in the textbook. So make sure you're doing that. All right, so now that I did this all dates, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save customization, and I'm going to call it General Ledger All Dates, and then I'm going to hit save. And now if I mouse over my reports area and go to custom reports, I should see that general ledger all dates. So when the textbook asks you to run general ledgers for the class and they ask you to specify the date, I would just ignore the date portion of it and just always run them as all dates. That way you'll see if you made any date mistakes. So I don't see the point of running them for a limited time because we're not going to have a ton of transactions entered. This will help us correct mistakes. We'll be taking a look at a lot of different reports in the class as we go through the text, but this one is one that I'm commonly using to help students find mistakes, and just specifying all dates in there helps us locate those date errors quicker. The My Apps area is going to open up here, and if I look here, I basically am seeing the menu of all the main areas inside of QuickBooks. So we've got them broken down by customers. So if I click on or mouse over a customer hub here, I can see, oh, if I clicked on that, I would be able to see a list of all the customers. There are no customers yet, so it's not much information in here, but you got your information about your expenses and bills, so you'd be able to list out your vendors. You'd be able to see all the bills that have been entered recently, all the payments of bills, and so on. So this is an area inside of QuickBooks that will be in often as well. The My Apps area gets us access to a whole bunch of expanded menus. We've got some areas that were from the My Bills that were pinned because they're so commonly used. Intuit decided these ones should be pinned. And then finally, if we wanted to customize the way this navigational menu appeared, we can click on this customize button, and we can cause other items to be pinned here as well. Up top on the right hand side here, I've got some icons here that I can click. This gear icon is one that we'll be using quite often. If I click on that, you can see that's the settings icon. I can see that I got a whole bunch of different settings that I can manipulate here. We will get some practice at that in this chapter in a moment. We've got different lists. We'll start creating service lists in chapter 3, where we create services and specify the dollar amount charged for them, because we're charging the same dollar amount recurringly for the same services. That helps us when we build invoices and to send out to customers. We can just click on the service from a drop down. It's going to auto populate with the unit price of each of those services. It also maps the services to the different accounts that they relate to, the different income accounts. Over here we've got some tools that we'll use occasionally. We can import data, so we'll take a look at that in this class. You can import journal entries, you can import lists of customers, lists of vendors, and so on. If you had used QuickBooks Desktop previously, you can import your data from QuickBooks Desktop here. See, you can reconcile your checking account here. Another area that's helpful, this is also a report, is the audit log. If I click on that, what that does is it shows all the activity inside of the QuickBooks company file, and it'll show like things like sign-ins, it'll show settings changes, it'll show a timestamp for all those, and it will also show the user that initiated that change. And this is important when you're trying to investigate a possible fraud. You might have many users inside of your company, and this is going to be your audit trail that you can use and see who entered that transaction and when did they do that, and you'll see that detail here. So the textbook, as you work through it in chapter 1, is going to basically have you click on many of these different areas inside of QuickBooks Online. It's really just sort of exploring and taking a look at what's in there. It can be a little bit overwhelming because there is so much, but as we go through the class, we'll talk about most of these areas in greater detail. One last thing that I'll mention here before we get involved in changing a couple settings per the instruction in the text is the search area. So up here we've got a little box where we can search for transactions. We can search for maybe a customer or a report, or if we can't find a particular screen that's in the textbook, we can possibly search and find the screen here. So this is a really helpful tool. We don't have much that we can search for as far as transactions. There aren't any entered yet, but you could search by dollar amount. If there was like an invoice number, you could search for that, or any type of reference number. That can be pretty helpful when you're trying to locate a particular transaction. So there is a help button up here in the top right. If I click on this question mark, it's going to pull up this help pane. And of course, I, as your instructor, am available to answer questions too, but you might be able to solve things on your own by using this AI tool here that they have. So it's got a text-based AI tool, sort of like ChatGPT, where you could ask it questions. So if you get stuck, you can type your questions in here. The AI tool is available when the Assistant tab is selected. You can also search different documentation in their knowledge base about the software by clicking on the Search tab, and then you can search and get those knowledge-based documents here. Another important point to make here is that Intuit recommends the Chrome browser, the latest Chrome browser, for use with QuickBooks Online. So while you can use Edge or Firefox, Chrome is the browser that Intuit specifically recommends. And if you run into any error messages, that would probably be one of the first things I would do in troubleshooting, is switching over to Chrome browser and seeing if the errors still persist. And then another thing too is that since the software is browser based, you may have to occasionally delete your cookies and cache. And the way that you would do that, you would come up here in the top right corner and click on these three dots, and then you have this option to delete your browsing history. When you do that, you want to make sure that the drop down message says all time, and then you could hit delete data. And if you have a problem that doesn't seem to go away, that might be something to consider trying and seeing if it works. You may have to log back into QuickBooks Online after doing that, but that does seem to resolve many issues. All right, so now there are a couple of settings changes that the textbook asks us to do, and one of them is to make sure that the appropriate tax form is set up for our company. So I'm going to click on the gear icon, the settings icon, top right, and then I'm going to go into the settings over here. I'm going to select account and settings. So you have different category of settings here on the left hand side, and right now I'm just going to stay on the company tab, and I'm going to scroll down the page here, and where it says the business type is set up as sole proprietor form 1040. That's what I want, so I'm just going to leave that as is. I don't have to change anything there, but if you did need to change anything, you would hit edit, and you got to drop down. You can select the business type from the choices there, and then you would hit save. But I'm not going to save anything there because that's already set up the way that I wanted. So another change to the settings in the textbook, it tells us to enter a social security number and a phone number as well as an address. We're going to do that. Now for the social security number here, obviously it's a fake number, it's all ones. The QuickBooks Online software won't accept this number any longer, so you're just going to have to make up a different number. Now you're not obviously going to conduct business in this QuickBooks Online company that we're setting up here, so it's fake. It's fine to put a fake number in here. Obviously, we'd want to make sure that we match the EIN or Social Security number of the sole proprietor. But for this purposes, I'm just going to make something up. So I'm in the settings area still, where we just made sure that the business type was set up with the form 1040. And now right above that, there's the setting for the EIN or Social Security number. I'm just going to put in a fake Social Security number. First, I have to select a type of tax ID number. I'm going to say SSN for Social Security number. There we go. A random number I typed in, it took it. I'm going to hit save, and we're ready to move on. So now I'm going to change the address of the company. So I'm on the account settings page. I'm in the company tab. I'm at the top of the page under company info. I see a spot for the address. Click edit. And I'm not going to use the address that's listed in the textbook. I just did, and I actually got an error message or an email that said it couldn't save it afterward. And the address is sort of important because when we get to the step where we start selling product and our product is subject to sales tax, the address is used by the software to figure out the appropriate tax rates, but also the government agency that we're going to have to remit the sales tax to. So we want to make sure we're following the text in a way and that we're using the same state. And California sales tax are a little bit more complicated as well. The amount of tax that needs to be withheld can be determined depending on both the buyer's location and the seller's location. So I want to make sure that I'm in the same zip code as well. So what I did is I saw in the book it was Mountain View, California. So I just Googled the town hall in Mountain View, and it looks like it's 500 Castro Street. So I'm going to try that and see if it takes it. All right, 500 Castro Street, Mountain View. The zip is slightly different though, but I'm just going to roll with that. We'll just say that's fine. 94041. And I'm going to save that. And it looks like it's giving us a suggestion. I'm going to follow their suggestion. Hit save, and the address is in there. And then there was one last settings change that they asked us to make. That one was to make expenses items billable to our customers. And the way that we would make that settings change is we go into the expenses category of settings here. And we should see one where it says make expenses and items billable. Right now it's turned to off. I want that to be turned on, so I'm going to hit this pencil icon. I'm going to hit this button here to turn it on, and then I'm not going to change any of the default settings there, and I'm just going to hit save. And it's giving us a little confirmation, and we'll click OK. That's it as far as the changes to the company file that are made to Mookie the Beagle in Chapter 1. So I'm just click on Done on the Accountant Settings area. It gets me back to the home screen. And now I'm ready to move on to the other company, Hafra Cyber. Now, before I do that, I want to say that the text does go through in more detail and have you explore these different areas of QuickBooks Online. I suggest you read through that and then just do some exploring on your own. Don't get overwhelmed with the detail, but just sort of take a look around, and we'll cover these other areas in greater detail as we go throughout the class. All right, so to get set up in the other company, I want to have you go back to your GRCC student email, and you're going to have two emails that are going to come from Intuit Education. They're going to be stacked on top of each other. But the one that I'm looking for is this Intuit Education. So I'm going to click on this, and they're stacked on top of each other. So the one that we already dealt with a moment ago is up top, Mookie the Beagle. I'm looking for the one that talks about Hafra Cyber. So here's Hafra Cyber, and so I want to accept the invitation in that email. Now the software already recognizes my QuickBooks user account because I'm using the same browser that I'm logged in on. So I'm just going to click continue. You should see your GRCC student email appear here. If you don't, make sure you click on sign in with a different email. You want to use your college email so I have access to your files. Click continue. And from here, you're going to see that Mookie the Beagle, but we don't want that one. We want this Hafra Cyber, so we're going to click Create a New Company. All right, and we're on that same setup interview screen that we saw earlier. So the welcome screen, we're going to click on Get Started. We're basically going to make the same changes that we did when we set up Mookie the Beagle. So here we're being asked what's the company called. We see Hafra Cyber showing up. Once again, I want your last name followed by your first initial, then a space, then Hafra Cyber. And then next. Hafra Cyber is a brand new business, so we're going to select nothing. I'm new to this here, and then next. We're going to leave the industry blank, so we're going to set up Hafra Cyber's chart of accounts ourselves. Now, Hafra Cyber is organized in a different way. It's not a sole proprietorship. Hafra Cyber is an S corporation. So I click on that drop down, select that. And then it's a brand new company, so the revenue last year was 0, so it's less than $1 million. All right, so our role in Hafra Cyber is going to be a bookkeeper or accountant, and we're going to say that there's one employee. Then we'll hit next. And we're going to go inside of this payroll area again, where it says learn how to start paying yourself and your team. We're going to click do this first. And then once again, we've got an important decision here. We need to make sure that we do not sign up with the payroll premium service free trial. So not right now is selected, hitting next. So we're not going to set up custom invoices right now, so skip for now on this screen. We're not going to accept in-person payment right now, skipping on that. And we're not going to connect our bank account to QuickBooks Online for now, skip. All right, we're going to make the same selections that we did earlier for Hafra Cyber. We're going to send and track invoices. We're going to manage and pay bills. We're going to track our team's time. We're going to track sales, and we're going to manage sales tax. And then I'll hit next. So that got us to the home screen of QuickBooks Online for Hafra Cyber, and now we can continue with the rest of the activities at the end of Chapter 1 and Project 1. These activities are also inside of McGraw-Hill Connect, so you're going to want to walk through the rest of Project 1 and follow the activities for Hafra Cyber. You're going to be entering their address. You're going to make a settings change, I believe, or two, at least look at some settings, and you'll go from there. In future chapters, I will only be demonstrating what to do inside of Mookie the Beagle, and you'll be fully responsible for the activity in Hafra Cyber. But for this chapter, I just wanted to make sure we got through that interview screen because it was significantly different from the screenshots in both the book and the textbook author's webpage. So I just wanted to make sure that was addressed for both companies right away so you're ready to go. Oh, another thing too, now that I've created two companies, If I click on the gear settings icon up top now I have a new option here that wasn't there before, switch companies, and that's how I can go back and forth between the two companies. If I click on that, I'll get a screen where I see both companies listed out, and then I can make changes to whichever one I wanted. So I have a couple last notes to mention here. So I'm inside of the assignments area of our Canvas course. I've expanded out the week 1 assignments. So next where it says set up HAFRA Cyber for chapter 1, there's a link here, and this is going to get us to the Connect questions that relate to chapter 1. So I'm going to click on that. And this is sort of what the questions look like here. So the first couple questions that I'm seeing here, actually, they say to get inside of Mookie the Beagle. You don't need to. It doesn't matter which company this one is for. Any of them that say that you need to be inside of Mookie the Beagle, you can do inside of HAFRA Cyber. It's not specific to Mookie the Beagle. It's just sort of navigating around QuickBooks here. So like, for example, where would I go to create a balance sheet? Well, I've got a list of drop downs. If I don't know the answer to that, I can just go back into my software and locate that. So I can sort of browse around here and try to find it. So I was trying to do a balance sheet. Well, a balance sheet, well, that's a type of report. So maybe I'll go into my standard reports and see if I can find that. I see it right here. I could also keyword search it there. I could also search up top here and try to figure out where is a balance sheet. But yeah, so I could see, oh yeah, it's under reports, balance sheet. Yep, there it is. So these questions are intended to help you explore the QuickBooks Online interface. And if you get one wrong, you can always check your work on each question until you get it right. So let's say you just responded this way, and you can see the feedback right here is wrong. You can return the question, and then you can get it right. I don't want you just to click on these and just keep checking my work. Try to go find them in the software. That's how you're going to learn. That's what they're intended for. The first 4 questions are like that. Now, I was having trouble navigating amongst these questions today by hitting the next button. Still doing it right now. The way I was able to move forward is clicking on this question map here, and then I could move around this way. So it looks like the next set of questions are also having you explore the interface. And once I get into question 5, though, I think that is specific to HAFRA Cyber, sure enough. So here, this corresponds with the textbook. You actually see this question in the book. So this is getting you into the settings area and looking at the tax form for HAFRA Cyber and so on. So as you work through the book for HAFRA Cyber, you are going to respond to various questions as you go through it. So you're going to want to see how the book lines up with these questions as you move. And these questions will be due for chapters 1 and 2 by the end of week 1. It's a pretty busy week because it's an accelerated class. So after you have set up Mookie the Beagle by watching the video that you just watched, and set up HAFRA Cyber, watching the video, and then continuing on with the book to do the other activity for HAFRA Cyber in chapter 1, answer those connect questions that relate to it, then you'd be ready to do the chapter 1 smart book assignment, which is going to reinforce some of the vocabulary, and then you're going to take a short multiple choice quiz that is not timed for chapter 1. Then you move on to chapter 2. You're going to continue the work with Mookie the Beagle. I'm going to have a video out here for chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we're focusing on the chart of accounts. We're going to be adding new accounts, deleting accounts, editing accounts, and so on. We'll be doing the same thing on HAFRA Cyber, but you'll be doing that on your own. You'll respond to questions in Connect related to HAFRA Cyber. And then you got the Connect Smart Book and the quiz for chapter 2 as well. And then finally, we've got one discussion board activity for the week. Just introduce yourself. And I've given you some questions here that I'd like you to respond to. I realize I've given you quite a bit to do during week 1, but you are totally capable of doing this, and I'm here to support you if you need it. Week 1 does also have an extra day. Each week in the class is going to end on a Monday at 11:59. So if you encounter anything that you need support on, if you have any questions at all, please reach out.